Well, good day to you. It is April the 12th, and I hope wherever you are, you're having a great day. My name is Gary Willing, and as always, I want to welcome you to Search for Signs and point out if you're new, remind you again if you've heard these videos before, that if you want to know more about who and what Maitreya is, if you want to see if there's any truth to any of this thing that we talk about here, the best thing to do is to read more about him for yourself. If you do that, I think that you really will come to a conclusion on whether there's any truth to this. You don't have to take my word for it. So that's why I included links in the description portion of these videos that take you to websites that talk about this information in some way. If you're totally new and you're asking yourself, well, what website should I start with first, Gary? Well, what I would say is start with the Share International site and then branch out from there, because there's more information on that site in one spot, and you don't have to go to a bunch of different things. You can read all about his priorities and all that kind of stuff there too. You can even see images of these miracles. You can even read articles from this master and read stories about people such as myself who've had experiences with these masters. So it's a wonderful website to get a lot of information at one spot. Now, if you want to join the discussion, of course, you can post your comments. You can post questions in the comment section. Email me at searchforsigns@mail.com. You can even join the discussion on Facebook. And I want to thank Ray and what is the other person's name? Alit Boazu. And Alit Boazu, if I am mispronouncing your name, I mean you no disrespect. I just have to say, and I say this to everybody whose name I butcher. So, I've always had a difficult time ever since I've been a wee little child pronouncing names that I am not familiar with, remembering names that I'm not familiar with. And even some words that I don't read on a daily basis, I have a harder time pronouncing. Some people, such as my daughter, are very good at just being able to read somebody's name out the first time and bam, they did it exactly right. So I do apologize about it. It's just, I've made it 51 years. I don't know if I'm ever going to get past this point in my life. I think I'm getting a little bit better trying to pronounce people's names, but to be honest with you, I still don't even know how to spell the word necessary. I have to use spell correct every single time because for the life of me, I still don't know how to do it. And people try to explain it to me and I'm like, all right, great. And I just don't know. Now, certain things I'm really good at, other things I'm not. So anyway, again, I do apologize. But you asked a question and let me try to answer it. What did you say? You said, what would be the esoteric meaning according to the Ageless Wisdom Teachings of a supernova? Now, you asked this question just a couple hours ago, and I've been thinking ever since about how to answer it. And the one thing I do want to say before I start is you have to understand that I am a one-trick pony when it comes to the Ageless Wisdom Teachings. I really just focus in on who and what Maitreya is, the things that he's said to me that I've tried to apply to my life and try to share with you guys, about his priorities, perhaps, how it relates to the political situation now, the economic situation, of course, and the immediate changes that will happen and those kind of things. Other than that, most of the stuff I read about and I kind of know, but I don't put a lot of time and effort and energy into it. But the other thing, too, is I can't offer any evidence to what I'm saying is true. So that's why even when it comes to me talking about what I'm familiar with and that what I talk about all the time, I can't offer evidence, but for me personally, I stand on a bit firmer ground because I've had experiences with Maitreya on the physical plane that are quite extraordinary. And I've tried to apply some of the teachings of Maitreya and see that it's helped me and those kind of things. And that way I feel like what I'm saying, there's truth to it. It might not be the whole truth, but it's, truth as I see it kind of deal. Now, when I start venturing out into some other areas, such as supernovas and the esoteric meaning behind them, if I had read it in one of Alice Bailey's books, perhaps I would just be regurgitating what I read. So, as with everything, I just want you to consider what I'm saying. You don't have to believe it as true, because I don't have any insights on supernovas that you probably have. But I am going to kind of try to relate it back to some things that I think that we could think about for ourselves and based on the teachings of Maitreya. When that we could talk about a supernova perhaps and maybe learn something. Okay, so what do I mean by all that is, a supernova is obviously when a star gets really, really big and then eventually implodes upon itself and becomes a black hole. Okay, so a star, just like everything else in the universe, has a beginning, a middle, and an end. And that's just the ending of it. Now, it's an oversimplification of what I'm trying to explain, but that's basically it. Now, what I really wanted to talk about in relation to this, and I will get back into more directly what I think happens with the supernova according to the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, is that according to Maitreya and these masters, they know nothing but the self. That is who they identify with, that's who they are, and that's who they say we all are. We identify incorrectly with the man or woman in incarnation as that which society sees as us and we see as us. And everything around it is encapsulated in that wrong identification that we have. That through meditation, through service, you become decentralized and you start to realize that you're everything that you see. And the truth of the matter is that self, that absolute reality, as Maitreya puts it, allows everything that we see and know of and think to be possible to exist. Okay, so to simplify it, that if you had a car parked in your driveway, doesn't matter what the make, model, and color of the car is, you have a car parked in your driveway, okay? There is a space that allows that car to exist in your driveway right now. If you get in your car and you turn it on and you drive to the store, what happened to the space in your driveway that allowed that car to exist? Did it affect that space or change that space or corrupt that space by leaving? Did it? No. And so that same space that allowed your car to exist in the driveway, where does it end? Does it end at the end of your driveway and that's it and there's nothing else behind that? Or is it at the end of your town or your state or your country or the end of the world or the end of the solar system or wherever? Where does it stop? And so if you look at what scientists think about the universe, right? What they would guess is that there's billions upon billions upon billions to the nth degree of galaxies out there that they can just guess is out there. But that there has to be something that allows those galaxies to be in the space that they're in. But yet, as they move around throughout cosmos, does anything really happen to that space just as your car in your driveway? Did anything happen to that space? That is the self. That is the absolute reality. That's what existed before the Big Bang and will exist after the universe implodes upon itself. That is it. That's who we are. That's what we all share. That's why we are all one in reality. Okay, so where this all comes into play in terms of a star is the same thing as it comes into a human life. And same thing with the universe as a whole, is it comes into birth, it exists, consciousness exists within that time, and then it eventually passes away and dies. And why does it do that? Well, we can kind of guess the purpose of a person's life, but we can somewhat guess, have maybe glimpses of a purpose of a planetary life. And we're only getting that from these masters, whether it's in religious texts or in the Ageless Wisdom Teachings, or maybe from some other person who can kind of see it to some degree. But for the most part, most people don't even live their life with any kind of purpose to life. It's just them individually. Do you see what I'm saying? So, but to understand the purpose of a life of a solar system, even if we tried to guess it, I don't even think that would really do it much justice, you know what I mean? But it is the ultimate culmination of the life of that solar system. And so if you look at two extreme viewpoints that are looking at life, trying to explain the origins of life, trying to explain life or God in their own way, you have the religious folk. Okay, now this is just a simplified version of it. And then you have scientists, right? Now, I'm not speaking for every scientist and every single religious person, right? But let's just take Christians, because those are who I'm most familiar with, right? When they look at life, they look at it from a mystical point of view, but there's also a similarity in the way that they look at life as with scientists who just look at life under a microscope. They both see the form and they think that they are separate from the form, that they are the person and that chair is separate from them. But in reality, there's no separation between them and the chair, them and the universe, them and anything else. And not only that rock, that chair, that car, that tree, that animal, that other person, even the planet itself and the stars and the sun itself are conscious. They are all alive. They might not be able to communicate with the sun, but the sun is alive, has a purpose, has a time that that it exists, and then it culminates in the end of that life, just as a person, just as a dog, just as a tree, just as anything else. But everything is in consciousness is conscious and alive. But we don't see it like that. We see it as that chair is just a chair, that rock is just a rock. But we're alive. So perhaps when we think about life on other planets, we think about human life on other planets, but the star that is allowing those planets to move around in that solar system light years away is not alive. But that's wrong. They are alive, according to the Ageless Wisdom Teachings. Has a purpose, has a plan that takes eons upon eons upon eons to culminate in its perfection of its life. Now, if you're to bring it down to the planetary life, of the soul that ensouls all of our planet. When Maitreya or these masters or even some of the religious leaders talk about the plan of God, they're talking about the plan of God as it relates to the soul that ensouls our planet, not the soul that ensouls all of the universe. But our planetary life is aligned with the solar logos's will. The solar logos's will is in line with that galactic life that ensouls our whole galaxy and so forth. And, we have individual purposes. We have things that we want individually for ourselves. In time, more and more humanity will become more in line with the will of God or the will of this planetary life as a whole. So when the masters refer to the plan of God fulfilling itself, they're talking about the planetary life that ensouls this planet, which is a part in turn of the solar life and in turn of the galactic life. So there's no real difference. It's just that how can anyone, whether they're Maitreya or any of these masters, explain the purpose of the solar logos's life as much as they can explain the galactic, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it's just that we would not even understand. We'd think we'd understand it, but we're really not understanding it. And I don't even know if they can even explain it, because they might not have the true sense of it, because from our point of view, they're perfected and they're wise beyond measure. But from the standpoint of the planetary life that ensouls this planet, the solar life that ensouls all of the whole solar logos and so forth, these masters are just beginners. So they're still working towards something. Do you see what I'm saying? So, but it really would boil down to the fact that the absolute, the self, the oneness, whatever that is, that space that allows a sun or a star to exist, from that standpoint, the life of the star is as fleeting as a piece of dust in the light in your room. As it goes past the window and goes into that little beam of light, you see it. It looks like it gets bright and then it disappears. That's about the length of time from the standpoint of the absolute reality, the life of a solar system is. But from our standpoint, it's billions upon billions upon billions of years, because we're at a much lower level. Does that make sense? Am I getting I might be getting too intellectual on it. But the most important thing is to look at is in terms of life as a life. Everything in life is life. And even the sun itself is a life. Not that you have to worship it and give it praise just like people do in church. You don't have to do that. But we owe our life to that life. Everything that we see is because of that, But yet we also owe our life and who we are to what really is there, which is the self, which allows everything to exist. As Paul said, that in which we live and move and have our being. So hopefully that answers that question a little bit, but that's the best I can possibly do, my friend. But anyway, I love you guys. You guys take care. Enjoy the day. I look forward to more questions and comments in the future. You guys have a wonderful afternoon. Bye. Remember to take action and help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos.